What are the stupidest millionaire habits that everybody keeps talking about on YouTube these days? Let me tell you, there's quite a few. In fact, some of them are quite laughable. And I'm here to share with you exactly what you should be focusing in on if you do want to become a multimillionaire and what not to waste your time on. My name is Monica Main. I'm a self-made millionaire and multimillionaire real estate investor. And I have to share with you something that I think is pretty spectacular because I've been watching a lot of YouTube videos that talk about all these millionaire habits and the things that you should be doing and should not be doing if you want to become a multimillionaire. And I have to tell you that every single one of them that I've seen so far is 100% fallacy. So here we go. Okay, so the first one everybody talks about, get up really early. In fact, at the butt crack of dawn. In fact, even earlier than that, earlier than when the roosters rise. We're talking between 4:30 and 5:30 a.m. And you think about it, it's like, okay, why get up that early? Well, I understand. There's something called Deep Work. It's an amazing book. If you've never read it, I suggest that you do read it. But the crux of the book talks about how you should get that 100% focus of work done. And the only way to do that is without distraction. And unfortunately, a lot of times we find ourselves immersed in distraction by the time, 8, 9, 10 o'clock in the morning rolls around, whether you have employees and you have people bothering you, or maybe you work for somebody and you have to go to work. And so the only times that you would really have to be able to start building your business or have that deep sense of work, whether you're writing a book or doing something else that's really important, is going to be super early in the morning. But the problem with this theory is that unfortunately everybody has their own methods within themselves, like internal methods that they do things in. So there's night owls. In fact, one of the most famous night owls out there is Mark Zuckerberg himself, a billionaire in his own right, founder of Facebook. And the thing about Zuckerberg is that he's always been a self-professed night owl. So you're probably thinking, okay, well, what if I am a night owl? Does that mean that I can't be successful? Well, that's completely 100% wrong. In fact, there's a bunch of tech giants, billionaires, if you will, that are all considered self-professed night owls. So what happens to getting up at 4:30, 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning? Well, it doesn't apply to those people. In fact, it doesn't really apply to anybody if that doesn't work with their own internal methodology and how your own body clock works. And so you have to find your own method to your own madness. And you can't just think in terms of, okay, well, some fly-by-night on the internet said that I have to wake up at between 4:30 and 6 o'clock in the morning, otherwise I'm always going to be a loser. You can't think like that because this is coming through the lens of a 20-something or 30-something-year-old internet tech, millionaire that happened to have a really nice home run with his or her business, and so therefore they think that this one habit must apply to everybody. That's not the case. In fact, unfortunately, a lot of these multi-millionaire techie, online marketers have probably kind of hit the jackpot, maybe based it on, having successful Facebook ads or whatever. And the very second the market turns or that they get their Facebook ads banned, it's like their one-hit wonder business is no longer going to work anymore. So all of these millionaire habits are going to be sucked out the window anyway. And at the end of the day, they really had very little to do with their success, if you think about it. So if you're thinking, okay, I'm a night owl, does this mean I can't be successful? You work with you, okay? So if you have a lot of energy and you have a lot of sharp focus in the lateral part of the day, I know I don't, but maybe you do. Maybe you really start to get your groove on at 7, 8, 9, 10 at night. And maybe you can go until 1, 2, 3 in the morning working on your creative projects. And what's cool about working in the wee hours of the morning is that you have nobody disturbing you and you have nobody bothering you. And if this is the time you can create your software program or create your new online business or create the book that you're writing, and then that needs to be your habit of doing that, then by all means, great. It just needs to be a habit. That is the key word. And so if you are working on something spectacular, you want to make sure that you're going to be doing it at the same time every single day and that you do the work every single day, even minuscule amounts of work. So for example, if you're writing a book, maybe 15, 20 minutes a day to start and then eventually get up to 30 minutes to an hour a day and do it at the same exact time. And no, it doesn't have to be at the butt crack hours of the morning. It can be at night. If that's where your energy and focus level is, then by all means do it then. Don't be following the group, the crowd, the sheep online, and they all say, oh, you got to get up really early to be successful. And if you don't, then you're not going to be successful. That's malarkey. It's like a BS in a box, okay? And that's because it works for them and it might not work for everybody, okay? So again, think in terms of what works for you. For me personally, I don't like getting up super early. But early for me is any time before 6 o'clock. I just don't like it because if I don't get at least 7 hours of sleep, I don't do very well and function very well the next day. So I have a night owl daughter. She likes to stay up late. I like to stay up a little later just to hang out with her. And unfortunately, it doesn't work for me to have to get up at like say 5:30 in the morning. So the earliest I like to get up is between like 6 and 6:30 in the morning. That works for me, and that is early enough for me. So I don't. It's not like I'm going to be a loser if I'm not getting up, at 4:30. That's just not the reality. So you need to choose something that works for you and stay consistent and reliable to that, if that makes sense. So that's the first one. That's the first, piece of misinformation that's floating around out there as far as how to become a millionaire. Get up really early. Well, it doesn't work for everybody. Sorry, it just doesn't. Just be consistent with your own internal clock and find your own productive hours, which is going to be different for everyone. All right. Number two is the workout myth. So I work out about 3 to 4 times a week, depending on the week. And I love working out, but it doesn't work for me to run into the gym at 6 o'clock in the morning. Like my body does not work that way. It has to warm up. It has to kind of go into, like, I like to do my meditations. I love to do my journaling. I like to ease into the day in that way, which is how my life works effectively as a successful entrepreneur. So if you can't find it in you to have a consistent schedule to get to the gym at 6 o'clock in the morning, say, and you like to maybe work out when your mind is a little bit maybe experiencing some downtime, which might be the afternoon, then that might be the time for you, as long as, again, you are consistent with that schedule that works for you. So all of these people online that keep talking about these millionaire habits, they're just applying it to them and them only, or a few other people that they might know, and they don't take into account that there's other people that go to the gym on their lunch break, for example, and don't necessarily wake up at 6 o'clock in the morning or 5 o'clock in the morning to go to the gym, because not everybody's body is the same. The older I tend to get, by the way, the harder it is for me to work out at earlier hours, because it takes my body so much longer to warm up and get the cracks and creaks out, and it takes a little longer to be able to work up to that. And if I don't feel like I'm warm enough, I am prone to injury. And again, a lot of these bits of advice are coming from 20-something, 30-something-year-old people that don't have the experience of being in a slightly older body and don't understand that getting up at 4 in the morning, especially if you live in Chicago and it's the middle of winter, and trying to run out to the gym, you might not be fully warmed up, and then you're more prone to injury. So that's also a fallacy, a fake, phony fallacy. So if you feel guilty for not being able to get up at the crack of dawn to run out to the gym and work out an hour a day, you feel like a loser because you're not, you have to work within your own schedule. But again, it has to be a reliable, consistent schedule that works for you. And it might just be, lunch hour on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, you might go to the gym. And as long as you're consistent and it works for you, then by all means, then that's your schedule. And you can be very successful with the schedule as long as you remain consistent. The third myth that I've noticed online is the book myth. Read books. All millionaires read books. Read books, read books, read books right before you go to bed. The problem I have with reading books before I go to bed, I don't know about you, my brain is toast by the time I'm going to bed. Like, I can't even think straight by the time I'm laying down to go to sleep. And so there's only one of two things I could do, is mindlessly watch TV, which I don't prefer. Every once in a while I'll mindlessly watch TV. But what I do prefer is listening to subliminal CDs. Yes, I actually have a CD player still to this day, because I don't like to have technology in my bedroom. I think it interferes with my sleep patterns, and so I try to remove all electronic devices, including my phone and computer and everything, out of my room. But what I do like to have is an old classic CD player with an actual plug-in headphones, and I like to listen to subliminal CDs right as I go to bed, while I'm visualizing what I want and while I'm visualizing what I would like the next day to happen, like what would I like to see. So that's what I like to do. Now, if you like to read books, if you feel like reading books is a thing and you can actually learn a lot and retain a lot of information, your brain is like not tired at that time and you can retain the information, great, go for it. Yeah, read a couple pages every single night. But if you're like me, and you feel like you're brain fried, then maybe you want to listen to books on tape, or that's what they used to call it back in the day, but like books on Audible, for example. You can very well do that as well, where you're listening to the books and you're kind of letting it seep into your subconscious mind. But if you're not able to focus, then it's very difficult for you to retain that information. So yes, books are really good, but what kind of books are you reading? So this is the other thing that, again, comes through the lens of somebody who's 20 something, 30 something, had a couple of, good hits business wise, and a lot of them are just talking out of their butthole because they just haven't had the tenure and the length of time in business and in life in general to be able to talk from a point of wisdom. And so as I get older, yes, I still read business books, but I find that I read a lot of spiritual texts as well, things that are beyond just making money. Because I've also found that spirituality, in many cases, does go hand in hand with becoming a multimillionaire. It's not just all about the latest marketing plan, the latest Facebook ad plan, the latest online marketing plan that you should be reading about. You should also be considering reading about spirituality, maybe law of attraction, wealth attraction. It was Steve Jobs, founder of Apple, who actually read the autobiography of a yogi for pretty much every day of his life. And that's a spiritual text. It's not a business book, okay? So if you're thinking in terms of real billionaires, what they actually read, many of them will read biographies. Many of them do read spiritual texts. Many of them read metaphysical stuff, new age stuff. They don't just read business books, right? So if you're finding yourself just feeling like you're choking the books down, like you're reading sawdust, and you're having to try to figure out how to, you know, absorb this information, and you feel like you got to be on all the time, on and cracking 24/7, you're going to find that there's very little downtime for you to be able to absorb this information and to be able to kind of think about the information. And so when you're constantly pushing information in without any time frame in which to figure out the information, think about the information, ponder the information, then it's completely useless, and it's like a rubber ball bouncing off your head, and it doesn't go anywhere with your life. It certainly doesn't serve you, and at the end, it does serve to be a huge waste of time. So you do have to kind of blend some of the business things that do interest you, because if it's dry as dust and you're not interested, you don't care about the marketing, you don't care about the copywriting, you don't care about the things that you're reading about real estate investing, whatever, then don't read those books. Don't feel guilted into reading these business books. If you don't want to read autobiographies about successful people, then don't read those, right? Read the books that you feel connected to. And it may very well be fiction books, and that's fine too. And you're thinking, Monica, how do multimillionaires become wealthy by reading fiction? Well, it's because you change things up, because you open up your imagination, because you still have a connection to the English language. A lot of people are becoming more and more illiterate as the days roll on. And just in the mere fact of reading really does keep your mind sharp, in addition to keeping your creativity wide and open, obviously, when you're reading fiction. So yes, that's acceptable as well. If you had a choice between watching TV and reading something, read fiction if that's what you'd like to read. Just do that. Doesn't always have to be some hardcore boring business book or hardcore boring spiritual text. It could actually be fiction as well. So again, those are the myths. Those are the big three myths on becoming a multimillionaire, and all these different rules that you have to have. There's this one guy, he really does bother me. It's like nails on a chalkboard. I won't mention his name, but I watched one of his videos and I'm like, dude, really? So he's like, well, my rule is that, when I wake up in the morning, I have to get up within 15 minutes. And if I don't, then, blah, 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 whatever. Okay, because you're going to spontaneously combust if you happen to lay in bed more longer than 15 minutes because it's a Sunday morning. Like really, like, why is it that everybody's got to have these just hardcore rules that they have to abide by? And then they have to guilt themselves into, abiding by these rules. Otherwise, they feel like a failure. Like, how does it enhance your life to feel like a failure? Like, if you decide that you've been working out like consistently, and all of a sudden you want to take a day off. Why is it that society makes you feel guilty for taking that day off? Why does society make you feel guilty for ordering that dessert? Why does society make you feel guilty for watching that TV show with your kids rather than reading a business book? Like, that's the problem with society, is that everything is just all these rules are ingrained around becoming wealthy. And the reality is, most wealthy people that I know are just like you and me. They watch TV. Many of them watch the news a lot. They don't read as many business books as you think. And so all these rules that have been concocted by these people online are really not in reality, and how many, many multimillionaires and billionaires I've known over the years, how they actually interact in the real world. So I just wanted to put your mind at ease and let you know how the real world works, and how you don't have to abide by all these rules. Yes, you do have to have discipline. Yes, if you're going to get out of your rut and you're going to become successful, you're going to have to adopt some habits. Some of it's going to probably feel uncomfortable. Like, for example, if you do want to lose weight, yeah, it's probably going to suck having to go to the gym 3 times a week or more. So what can you do to make it more interesting? What can you do to do some exercise that you enjoy? Like, how can you have a happy medium to where it'll be something you'll stick with? Same with dieting. It's just like going on a crash course, no carb, no sugar diet is probably going to be fairly impossible for you to do if you're a sugaraholic or you love chocolate or whatever the case may be. So what is a happy medium? Well, maybe you introduce more healthy foods and then you still have your treats here and there, but not as many. See what I mean? And it'll be a slower weight loss process, but it doesn't matter because at least you're enjoying life and you're not miserable snapping people's heads off because you haven't had any carbs or donuts or anything for, months on end. So there has to be a happy medium in how you operate and what you can realistically do and stay on a disciplined path to, because if you're not going to stay on the path and you're not going to follow through and you're not going to do the stuff and you're not going to, be disciplined, then you're never going to see the success. And so the other thing too is that you want to get involved in a business that is of interest to you. You don't ever get into a business simply because it makes money. I've talked to thousands of students over the last several years. I've been training people in wealth building since, I guess, about 2001. And I have to say that one of the biggest things I've noticed with people is that a lot of my students will have run the gamut when it comes to different opportunities. Like they've literally tried everything out there, like everything. And 99% of the things that they've tried, they have zero interest in doing. They're simply trying to do it for the money. I've had a lot of students tell me, I try to get involved in stock trading, but I hate it. I try to get involved in real estate. Don't like that either. I tried to get involved in an online business. Not interested, but I was lured in by the promise of money. And guess how many of those people became successful with the endeavors that they sought out to go after? The answer is zero. Yes, a big fat zero. Want to know why? Because when you're not interested in what you're trying to make money with, you're not going to make money with it because you're not going to have that stick-to-itness. You're not going to be able to follow through when times get difficult. So one of the things my daughter constantly harps on me about is how much I work, but she doesn't realize that for me it's not work. It's actually considered fun. Like I love doing my copywriting portion of my marketing. I love doing marketing, period. I actually like reading marketing books because I enjoy the art of marketing so much. But she doesn't realize that it's not work for me. She just sees it as work because she's not interested in any of that at all. So it's considered work to her, right? So you have to find that business, that money-making idea that's not going to seem like work to you. You have to find something that you're really so interested in that you would do in your free time for free without thinking about money at all because you're that interested in it. Or something that you'd read books about that you're that interested in, that you'd find it fascinating when you're reading the books. So what is that for you? I don't have that answer. I don't know. All I know is that if you don't know what it is, you're going to have to keep trying and trying different things. And it's like a smorgasbord. It's like a salad bar. You've been to a salad bar, right? Where you go to a salad bar and you try a bunch of different things, stuff that looks like it could be good, stuff that looks like maybe you might not be a big fan of, but you try everything just to see, what do I really like? What do I not like? And the only way you're going to find out what you like and what you don't like is by simply trying a bunch of things out. And what they call failing forward fast. The faster you fail, the quicker you fall into something that you're going to be interested in and most notably be highly successful at. And so again, you want to fail forward fast as quickly as possible. And so one of my success secrets, which is going to be different than what most other people online will tell you, and that is this. I like to meditate a lot. I journal every single day, 3 pages a day, as per the book I read years ago by Julia Cameron called The Artist's Way. So I have religiously been journaling every single day for a solid 6+ years, never taken a single day off. No matter how sick I was, no matter how much I've been traveling, I would constantly stay with the 3 pages a day. That is my form of meditation. So I do my meditation with my journaling every single morning, and I really get in touch with my intuition. And my intuition really draws me into the direction I need to go for that day, but that week and that month, and of course that year. But the other thing that really is my success point is actually taking time off. That is when I'm more successful. And I know that seems very counterintuitive. Whereas you're like, Monica, how is it that you can take time off and be more successful? It's because when you're not constantly drilling into the business and constantly thinking about the business and constantly worried about the business and constantly pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing with no time off, unfortunately, when you're doing that, you don't have any room to let it breathe. It's like a fine wine. You pour the wine into the glass, and then what do? Well, if you know wine, I don't really know wine. I don't even know what I'm talking about really, but I know people that drink a lot of wine, and they let the wine breathe, right? Or a good cognac. You let it breathe, and then you consume it. So your life has to be allowed to breathe. And if you're constantly just pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing with no time to breathe, then things are not as successful in your life as you'd like. So I recommend that people take nature walks. You go to the beach, you go to the woods, you walk around, you spend time with your family. You actually start the process of pulling back and working less and working smarter rather than pushing harder, getting up earlier, working more. It's just all of that stuff, pushing, pushing, pushing. That works when you're in your 20s and 30s. When you start getting a little older and you start realizing there's got to be a smarter, better way to do it, then you start to realize it's okay to start letting go of the reins, letting other people help you, having better leverage in that way, and at the same time, you doing less work and you spending more time on yourself, okay? And being connected to nature, being connected to God, being connected to the universe. These kinds of things will bring you success faster than constantly pushing, working, forcing stuff down people's throat, selling, just that push grind. And again, all your 20 somethings and your 30 somethings on YouTube and all these other places are going to keep telling you to push, get up earlier, work more. And as you get older, you realize that that's really not the solution. The solution is to be able to allow your life to breathe. You can put the effort into it, you can put the work into it, but you put the work out, and then you see what happens. Pushing and grinding and hustling and just pushing so hard to the point where you just want to jump off a bridge, that ain't the way to go, folks. And that does not work in the long haul. So you have to be able to create your own system that works for you, be very consistent, be very disciplined with it, but also understand that now is not a good time for you to start feeling guilty if you missed one day of reading your maybe 15 pages a day in your book, or if you missed one day at the gym, or you had that one dessert, or you got up a little later. It's like, hello, come on, we're living the life, here. We're not here putting ourselves under undue pressure as if we're trying to push ourselves into some kind of prison or something. It's like life is hard enough as is. Why do we want to imprison ourselves in that way? So again, be disciplined, but don't push so hard to where you just don't find that life is fun anymore. And again, allow yourself time, allow yourself nature walks, allow yourself your life to breathe, and you will find yourself much more successful and further along in life than all the other people out there making these ridiculous millionaire recommendations. So if you found that this content was useful to you, please give me the thumbs up, as well as consider subscribing to my channel. This is Monica Main signing off, and I will see you in the next video.